Welcome to the Yo Brother podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Hey, man, back in the saddle. Don't adjust your set. This is not late night with old brother.
No guests?
Talk show. Yeah, I know. No guests today.
Oh.
We're back to.
Why do I have a list of questions?
I'm happy to field any questions you might have.
I thought it was for the guest.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So let's get some business out of the way. First of all, if you're not following us, make sure that you do. The easiest way to do that is to find us on our official website, which is, I'll get to that. And for those that can't see, Mike is holding up his thumb. But you want to go to the official website, which is OHB as in brother podcast.com. That's OHB as in brother podcast.com. You can get access to all of our social media there. We have a blog that Mike puts out almost weekly there, so you can keep up with that. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel from there and, shoot us a thumbs up if you like our videos. And we're constantly pushing content out there as well. And you gonna say something?
Well, I just wanted to say that the most recent blog is about the biggest snub in Oscar history. And I hope people will respond to it and tell us what their snub.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I'm not going to say what it is.
Right.
If you go read it, you'll see what ours is.
It's a great one and one that we've talked about ever since this film came out.
Yeah, for years.
Ever since this film came out. Yeah, love to get people's thoughts on that one. Yeah, so check that blog out on our website. And we've been talking about this, but we want to give a shout out to one of our fellow podcasters, Saute South _podcast. That's Saute, just as you would think, S-A-U-T-E.
He's got his wings.
South, right. Saute South.
And I think when he really likes a movie, he gives it like
2 wings up.
Yeah, I forget what he calls it, though. I don't think he calls it wings. Looks like wings.
Yeah, I think so.
He's much kinder than we are.
And he would say, he often says it's Saute J, Saute J. This guy, he just gives off good vibes. Like he just, when I watch him, he's always smiling. He's positive. And
he does a lot of movies, does a lot of quick takes.
And he's got deep knowledge of movies too. Like we went on an IG Live not that long ago with one of our listeners, Tiana, and we were throwing out some obscurities and he was keeping up with us. So he definitely has a deep knowledge there.
He put a poster up on his Instagram for the killer, the killing.
The killing.
I always get the killers and the killing mixed up. The killing with, which was one of our top 5 or one of my top 5 favorite movies.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see a review of it. It was just the poster. So Sante, if you got a,
Saute, go do a review of that movie. Let's see what you think of it.
Yeah, see what he's really kinder than us.
Yeah.
He did Wonder Woman. I know he didn't like it, but he likes to point out some good things.
Right. Well,
when we're just like,
which is good because he made me sort of pause and step back a little bit and say, maybe I was a little harsh.
Yeah.
A little too harsh
me.
with my,
not me.
Yeah. I was a little, I was kind of brutal. Well, more with Let Him Go when we did that recent review of Let Him Go, I was unhinged.
Yeah. You were really thinking back, because isn't that the last movie we did?
Yeah, it is.
So thinking back, has anything changed? Or because sometimes when you think about a movie for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have railed as hard as I did. But I still was disappointed in some of those supporting performances. But not to the extent that I was in the moment. I got heated. I got a little emotional, folks. So today we're back in the saddle doing a movie review. We're going to talk about this new Tom Hanks film, News of the World.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks and this 12-year-old girl, Helena Zengel from Berlin. So
this movie just came out, this Tom Hanks movie.
Well, it had a theatrical release for whatever that's worth right now these days on Christmas Day.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. It did. And it was, I think, projected or expected or hoped to make about 4 million. I think it made about $1 million
yeah,
or something like paltry like that. But then it, of course, hit the video on demand on the 15th of January, I think is when it actually hit.
yeah. So now it's like, it's one
It,
of these things you got to pay $20,
well,
right?
and Netflix acquired the international rights to it as well. So
Right.
but they excluded the US in that. So, when we decided on doing this film, the first thought I had was, and I always worry about this. Now, look, I've been a Tom Hanks fan since Bosom Buddies, like
Wow.
going way back.
That's when I used to confuse Tom Hanks with Michael Keaton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Back in those days, they were
Yeah.
kind of like the same person.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And, but, Tom Hanks is so likable, right?
Nice
And
guy.
nice guy, and just, one of the top 5 recognizable actors of our time. And, yeah, just a huge resume of films and et cetera, et cetera. But what I always worry about with him is, he's not a deeply like a method guy. I wouldn't consider him a method actor. So sometimes I'm like, is this going to be Tom Hanks in this movie? Is this just Tom Hanks with a hat on? Is this Tom Hanks wearing a suit? Is this Tom Hanks with a mustache? And so I was really kind of worried about that. And I tried to be objective when watching it. One thing I'll say off the bat is I actually enjoyed his performance in this. I found myself, sort of believing in his character. And I thought there was it was really authentic. And
Do you want me to set up the story?
yeah, set up the story so then we
Okay.
can kind of dive back into it.
And we won't, no, this is brand new.
Just a
This
brief,
is like
yeah,
this
just
week.
a synopsis, yeah.
I won't give any spoilers, but this
Right.
is just after, I'd say a few years after the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Hanks plays a guy who travels around basically the South, and he reads newspapers. He goes into these communities, and the country is rebuilding after the Civil War, and he basically reads the news to people in these villages. They pay a dime, and he reads the news to them. And at the beginning of the movie, he's heading from one village to the next.
Right.
And he comes across this wagon that's tipped over and finds this little girl, probably a 10-year-old girl. And she doesn't speak. He can't really communicate, finds the papers, and there's a gentleman hanging from a tree that we can see. Right. And what he finds her papers.
Now, you point out that this is basically a blonde-haired,
blue-eyed little girl
wearing this Native American, like Indian garb.
Correct. But she doesn't speak.
Right.
So he's having trouble communicating with him. So he finds her papers. And when we see it's a black man hanging, who's basically lynched.
Right.
And again, this is right after the Civil War. There's still a lot of animosity.
Yeah, it's 1870.
Slavery. Yeah. So, anyway, he finds the papers, what he assumes are the papers for the girl, and decides he's going to take her to the next village and give her, pass her off to the police or whoever takes care of something like that missing.
Right.
Missing. So and then, he continues reading the news around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically the setup.
Right.
And I don't think we'll go any.
No, just it then just follows their journey together in his attempt to get her back to where she's supposed to be.
Yes.
Because she's basically been orphaned.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good basic setup.
Yeah.
Of the film. So, I thought it was, there was a lot I liked about it. I thought it was well directed. I thought it was well lit. Cinematography was good. anything with the Western landscape, those vast landscapes are just always so, if it's done right, they're just very striking on camera to see that much open land still these days. And, you kind of recognize how expansive the world is. Um, but I felt like if I had a criticism, I felt like this movie took as long to get somewhere as Tom Hanks took to get to each town to deliver the news of the world. It was a little, it was a little slow at times. At
I
times.
think you're being kind. I didn't like this at all. I thought it was basically, this is how I described the movie. It was a long journey to get to exactly where we knew we were going. You
Yeah.
knew where we were going. You knew the end of this movie.
And I
You
didn't
knew
like
it.
and I didn't like the end of the movie either.
And I'm surprised you didn't like it because it's kind of a sappy ending, sort of. It's
Well,
kind
you
of
know
like an
me. I
emotional.
wanted, I wanted Fat Man to end after, the climax of that film
Yeah,
in a negative light. So I don't necessarily need, everything to come together and be
right.
resolved.
But this,
But that was
this,
just very disappointing. It felt like, okay, all that for that, like
right,
that's all we
right.
got. That's the
But,
payoff.
but don't you think that was, didn't you know where this journey was going? Couldn't you
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
early on?
Well, sure, but I think that's understood just in the premise of the film, really, right? Obviously, they have to get to some destination, whatever that is, and it's either going to be one or two things. She's going to get back to where, you know,
I
she's supposed to
totally,
be,
there was
or not.
twice I totally misread the movie, thinking
Hmm.
it had deeper meaning than it did.
Mm.
And I don't know if I can do this without spoiling it. I think I can. I thought that when he finds the girl early on, I think it was the first night together, he makes a little place for her to sleep and, they get a fire going, and it starts to rain and she starts running away and she sees in the distance a bunch of like a I don't know what you would call it, a group
Yeah, like
of
almost like a caravan of.
yeah, a caravan of Native Americans,
Right.
you know. And what I thought is I thought Hanks couldn't see them.
Hmm.
I thought they were representing death.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you
And she
definitely
was
went too deep.
right. I figured this out, obviously. So then there's a sequence in the movie where there's a huge windstorm that kicks up.
Right.
One of those desert storms where the
Yeah, it was
sand.
like a dust storm. A dust
Yeah,
storm.
you
Yeah.
can't see. So there's this sequence where there's this storm kicking up. And again, they lose track of each other.
Mm-hmm.
She just gets blown away.
Right.
And then as the storm starts to dissipate, you see her go up to a group of Native Americans. She grabs a horse for him. Again, I thought she was dead. And I
No,
thought,
that never crossed my
so
mind.
so you see, I was
Yeah,
going
that never.
deeper,
Right. That never crossed
thinking
my
there was a
mind.
deeper meaning here, and
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't.
Well, and maybe that. I mean, that, that must have had an impact on your overall perception of the film.
Well, I think that would have been a better movie if they somehow shaped it like into something. But
Yeah, it's funny.
you nailed it where you said this just kept going and going and going. And then we get to where we're going, and you're like, okay, so what's the story?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just,
but I think it's worth noting, at least I'll say, I thought there were definitely a couple of nice moments. One, and I'll try to do this without giving anything away, but there's a scene where Tom Hanks's character, Captain Kidd, the apparently Paul Greengrass, the director,
who
anytime he
did the
works with,
Bourne,
anytime he
Bourne
work,
Identity.
anytime he works with Tom Hanks, he's gonna apparently make him a captain because he also did
Right.
Captain Phillips.
Right.
But there's a scene where Hanks's character gets in an altercation with these three sort of outlaw cowboys, and then
We
in a
want the
subsequent,
little, how much for the little girl?
that's pretty bad
Ah,
impression,
that was
but
them. That was
but
them.
in a subsequent scene they have an encounter that I really liked. I thought that was
That was well done.
really good build of tension and directing. Like, it was just a really nice sequence.
And it was, and there was some great shots.
Mm-hmm. And there's some others with the young girl, with, again, won't go into details, but there's some scenes with that really are just her alone. And I thought she did a really nice job. I thought they were very well directed. If we go into too much detail with them, it would give away too much of the movie. But yeah, I mean, again, it was a long way to go. Again, another 2-hour movie that you probably could have shaved off 15, 30 minutes, and that would have been fine. Well, I don't know about that, but to get to where it got to just was not a sufficient payoff.
There was no payoff. And even that sequence we were talking about, that you just mentioned,
mm-hmm.
as well shot as that was, and there was some tension to it. We knew, because it's 20 minutes into the movie, we knew how it was going to go. We knew how that sequence was going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a similar sequence later on in the movie. We just knew how it was going to end.
Right.
I knew what was coming. I mean, I felt like I had read the book, and this was exactly like the book. And
again, we do another film based on a novel. That's kind of our niche.
Well, was this based on a novel?
Yeah, 2016 novel, Paulette Jiles.
Okay, I didn't read the novel, so I didn't know that.
For me, it was sort of like they're out in this vast, these prairie lands.
Right.
And they get into an encounter with somebody, and they're like, they get out of it, and it's like, whew, glad we got out of that. And then they're just right back on the open road, like as if that's not going to happen like 19 more times.
Right.
So that kind of, I thought, was a little
Especially
silly.
They're in the South.
But then surprised when it did happen,
Yeah, exactly. We're in the South. It's post-Civil War. There's still a lot of animosity. There's people, he's doing this gig because a lot of people can't read.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know how to read yet.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. It's kind of like entertainment. It's kind of like going to a movie, except you go to this building and you listen to a guy read the news.
Right.
But I thought there was a lot of Oscar buzz around this, and I really was expecting it to be good, but I guess the buzz was on Greyhound, which came out maybe a month or two ago.
Greyhound, right? Yeah. Well,
and we never watched that, or I never watched it.
I mean, it's two good performances. I thought their chemistry was really good. I thought they played off each other really well. And again, I went into it skeptical because of the Hanks factor. Like, he's just so known. And I don't know. I just worry like Mr. Rogers. I had the same kind of thing, with that movie. And I will say, I still had some issues with that after seeing that film, because I just didn't fully buy him as Fred Rogers, so.
But I thought that was a lot better than this, because at least there was a story to it.
Well, it's a better movie. Yeah, better movie, definitely.
With the other actor from The Americans, and he's a great actor.
Oh, that's your buddy, and you're like,
yeah, and I'm his name's just escaping me right now, but
it's going to come to us here as we're talking about it. So I mean, I think it's worth a rental. I definitely, it's not, I wouldn't recommend it as a
$20 job.
Like no, and not a film that I would say, rush out and buy, but
in fact, I would skip it. I would say skip it.
I wouldn't say that. It's a good like Sunday sleeper, type of movie.
Yeah, but you're going to fall asleep.
Yeah, well, it's I did find myself distracted a few times. I'll admit that. You know what's funny is I was texting with mom yesterday, and
while you were watching it.
no, well, yeah, and she said, "Oh, just checking in. Like, what are you up to?" I said, "Oh, watching this film," and I said, "Oh, it's the Tom Hanks film," and she said, "Oh yeah, Michael said that movie was boring," and I said, "Ma, don't tell." Don't do me a favor. Don't tell him that you told me that, because I was gonna sort of riff on that at the beginning and bust you a little bit. So I knew going into this you didn't like it.
But did she tell you that I told her not to say anything to you?
No. That's funny.
I came in and she was texting you. And I walked in.
Oh, so she's probably already spilled the beans. So
no,
she was
and
like,
she said, Danny's watching the new Tom Hanks movie. And I said, oh, I already saw it. And she said, oh, how was it? And I said, it was boring. It was really boring. I said, but don't tell Danny I said that. I said, we can't communicate about the movies.
And what did she do?
Talk to, and she blows it.
First thing she did is say that you thought it was boring.
She must have, because I had left and come back. And I said, make sure you don't say anything about what I just said.
Right.
Because we're not allowed to talk about the movies.
That
was a dead giveaway.
Some of the benefits of being her, the favorite son. I mean, listen, it's I don't plan these things. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. So I knew going in you weren't a fan. That's all I knew though. I didn't expect you to dislike it quite as much as you did. And again, I was surprised that I liked it as much as I did. Didn't love it, but it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah, I just would skip it. Tom Hanks has so many good movies. I would rewatch one of his better movies. And now I almost want to watch Greyhound because this one was disappointing. I know he's working on another movie right now.
You might have been more satisfied if maybe he took a Greyhound from town to town to read the news. It would have sped things up a little bit.
It just seems so slow.
Instead of going by horse and buggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it dragged, but I didn't feel like it was excruciatingly slow. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's about the only news we've got on this film. And you got a thumbs up and a half a thumbs up, maybe. I guess so. Not a strong recommendation
I would say
either
not
way.
even a half a thumbs up.
I
would say skip it. I say skip it.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I'm not giving it a thumbs up. I meant thumbs down, and then.
Okay.
Maybe a halfway thumbs on my end. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. We still love you. You're still America's sweetheart.
And still looking for, I'll see his next movie because he's that good.
That's right. And I see that you got, for those that are watching this on YouTube, you can see you're showcasing some of the
I've got a few Hanks of his films.
And you just put out on Instagram, you just posted on your account your collection, a big chunk of your collection.
I did.
Very cool.
And it's not all of it, which is sad.
Right.
But yeah, if you go, I don't do a lot of social media.
Right.
But you can all of that.
But you can find you out there.
Yeah. But, and only a few people have found me. So, but I figured I'll take pictures and shoot it up there and
yeah, it's good. Get a nice inside look at the collection, that physical media. If you haven't, if you missed our last couple episodes, I encourage you guys to go back and check those out. We had a string of interviews going on there, starting with, most recently starting with the Nelms brothers after the movie Fat Man, which we are obligated to mention in every podcast we do. And Johnny Durango gave us some marching orders to make sure we work it in. And then, of course, we had the interview with Johnny Durango, director of photography and executive producer on a lot of films, but on the series right now, Everyone is Doing Great on Hulu. And then we just most recently interviewed Deborah Baker Jr., who's got just a really extensive resume of films and television. And she's got some recurring roles on The Neighborhood and Blark and Son on Comedy Central. And she was also in Everyone is Doing Great on Hulu and just had a great role in that series.
Yeah, she's in 3 shows right now that are on.
Right.
And she's what we found out in the interview, she's classically trained actress and really wants to do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we were so focused on the comedy when we talked to her because she's really brilliantly funny.
She is, yeah.
I hope for her she gets some good dramas,
mm-hmm.
Because she loves working,
Well, and she may have some of that in the can. She talked, there was some things she couldn't get into just yet because that'll be coming. So we'll see what that brings. But that's currently out, and it's also you can watch that episode on our YouTube channel. It was a lot of fun talking with her, so we really enjoyed that as well. Got a lot coming up. We've got a lot of films scheduled that we're planning to see. We've got another interview that we'll talk about as it gets a little closer. Maybe on the next episode, we'll talk about that. That's exciting. We're looking forward to that too. We'll just say that it involves one actor by the name of Nicolas Cage, and that's all we'll say.
Is he the guest?
You'll have to tune in and see. So, all right, there you have it, folks. That's going to do it for us this week. And don't forget to follow follow us at our official website, which is ohb as in brother podcast.com, ohbpodcast.com. You get access to all things Oh Brother there, including being able to subscribe to our YouTube channel, following our blog, and all our other social media channels. It's kind of a nice central spot for all things Oh Brother, so make sure that you check us out there. And appreciate you tuning in. Glad to be back reviewing a film. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
And that young actor turned out to be Tom Hanks. I'm Paul Harvey. Good day, everyone.